Everybody says gaming doesn't do good for anything. Are you kidding me? Hey, I got a kid off his depression meds. It's hard to say, what's going to be the next big thing for next time. This, I could do this. I could do this better than them. So I took on the challenge. It's a challenge.
So guys, we are here in Holmesdale, Pennsylvania with the owner Mike of the store Dragon's Den Tabletop Gaming. And today we are going to do an interview with him talking about what his industry in the field is like, as well as what it's like to be a tabletop game store owner. And Mike, welcome to the channel. Thank you for having us on in the store.
Hey, a pleasure. Thanks for coming down.
So Mike, we're gonna start off with a very easy question, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Me or the store?
You.
Me? Not a complicated creature. Actually, when you last did the interview, I was turning 40. Fun times. It's just a fan of gaming in general, whether it be tabletop, video, whatever you think of, in your little head and you could dream up. I was a big fan of it growing up, and I waited a long time to be able to open my own business, and this was my chance, so I took it.
And what inspired you to what inspired you to make your own business?
I'm not going to name names. I worked for a store big into the video game world. Let's not name names here. And, after 8 years of that, I said, you know what, I could, cockily as a kid, and you sit there and you go, I could do this. I could do this. I could do this better than them. So I took on the challenge. It's a challenge. But, hey, it's working. Everything's going great. And here we are.
Besides tabletop games, board games, stuff like that, what else do you offer in your store?
I do retro gaming. I do, everything from painting minis to whatever you need me, whatever you want to do. Whatever kills the time.
And you have a bunch of Pokemon cards I see in the case.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, minis. What?
Pokemon rules the world.
Pokemon does rule the world. What's your approach to bring customers into the store? Do you happen to pay for any advertisement? Or do people come in here because they already know you, tell their friends word to mouth?
It's kind of a lot like that. I don't pay for advertisement. It's a lot of social media. Everybody knew me from working at the last job and everything. And when I opened this, a lot of them followed down. I said earlier, Pokemon rules the world, and it sure does. Slap a Charizard on the door, bring people in, show everybody the greatness that it is. You and I have been collecting cards for how long now? What, 30 years now it's been out?
Yeah.
Feels like it. Probably
like
longer.
It, for sure.
And I mean, why not share that with everything? Why not?
And the way you have the table set up in your store, right? It seems that you have people that come in for Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
What is the most played game inside your store?
Oof, that's hard. A lot of Warhammer, Dungeons and Dragons almost every night. There's a game going on. Magic's picked up. Waiting for the next TCG that's coming out. Disney Lorcana's been out for a little bit now. That's picking up. Star Wars Unlimited just dropped. That's huge right now. Grand Archive is climbing its ranks. It's hard to say, what's going to be the next big thing for next time. Right now, probably Dungeons and Dragons. With the game every night, yeah.
And Dungeons and Dragons been out since
77, 76.
And it's kind of crazy to think that people still play it 50 years later, huh?
Well, it's beaten VR. It's going toe-to-toe with video games. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 came out not that long ago, and everybody got a spark of, we have to get into it. I just sold the D&D book. You just saw it.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
I just opened for sale today, D&D.
And Stranger Things, you would say, is also a big advertisement for that game, right? For everyone to pick up.
I think Critical Role, and I think Stranger Things. The moment Stranger Things hit Netflix, I couldn't keep a book in stock. the next week was absolutely crazy. Sold out of dice, sold out of books, sold out of everything. I think every game store did. People are coming in. It's like, is this the game from Stranger Things? Yes, Pam, this is the game from Stranger Things. Yes, that's what Dungeons and Dragons. It's kind of funny to think about it now, but how crazy that is.
For you as a business store owner, how do you engage with your customers? What would you say that what would you say that you leave them with in terms of a good impression when they walk out the door? What makes them want to come back?
Great service and pricing everything at MSRP and engaging. Sell people what they need, not what they want. I think that's always been a big selling, thing for me. Has always been, he's screaming he wants the Charizard box. Well, if he's not ready for that, get him something he is ready for. You as a parent or anybody else, you just, your kid wants this, it's $50, and he's screaming as, he wants it right now, and I want it now. And this economy, the $30 box will do just as good, if not better. And that's what that's where he should be starting off. You know what I mean?
Right. And by any chance, right, with the new sets coming out, do you order certain sets for people when they do ask you for them?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good, especially.
You got to be up on the new stuff.
Right. And how do you keep up with new sets coming out? Like, how do you, especially for loose cards as well, how do you keep up with market?
Now, sealed product is easy. That's just getting from your distributor, ordering it in. That's any game store. That's anywhere. That's Walmart. That's us. That's anybody. Singles is a little tougher. Somebody has to be willing to give up their collections, the right price. It's a, they know what they have. And you're trying to give a fair price. You're not trying to rip anybody off. And sometimes the funds are there, sometimes they're not. It's life of a game store owner is not always, sunshine and rainbows.
Right, and you never know what's going to walk in that door.
Rick from Pawn Star said it best. You really do not know what's going to walk through that door. I've had the Power 9 walk through that door for Magic. I've had that, Charizard Shadowless that, is worth a couple $1,000 graded walk through my door. I've had things where people thought it was the most valuable card in the world was a fake. There's nothing like telling some guy who went to a con that bought a $1,000 Pikachu card that it's fake.
Yikes.
Yeah, Yikes was right. He was not happy. But, I also feel like your responsibility is to let people know, hey, you kind of got ripped. You got to be careful.
Right. And at least you're knowledgeable and you can educate someone and, hopefully they take it as insightful, helpful, instead of them thinking that you're bashing them for a decision that they made.
Yeah, 100%. There's, everybody makes a mistake. It's just how big of a mistake did you make?
Would you say people come in here for sealed product more often? Because you said you have you sell retro games when they do come in the door, or do you think people come in for loose cards more often?
Boy, that's like 50-50.
Yeah.
I get people that the first thing they want to see is all the singles. Packs are easy. Everybody's got packs. It's the singles that bring up people to a game store. You know what I mean? It's the single cards. It's the, you have, this Pokemon card from back in, Jungle Set. Well, when was that? 98? 2000?
Right.
Or the retro gaming. Hey, this is Resident Evil 1 from your childhood. That's what people want to see too, but sealed product is also, that's great too. That's got its own, collectability in a sense. What was retro back then is, what was standard back then is now retro. Blaze, was it Lost Origins or whatever it was not that long ago, the last set for Pokemon. Hey, that's going to be retro one day. It's crazy to think when you and I were growing up as kids, you look at PS2 stuff, you look at PS3 stuff, and you go, it's just a PS2 game, whatever. Rewind 20 years. What is it now? A retro collectible that, everybody had. That's crazy, Look at the Halo helmets from Halo 2 that everybody had to run out and buy.
Retro.
Was it 2 or 3 with the helmet?
3.
It was 3, excuse me. I've been to a couple yard sales and I see them for $10. The things you thought were going to be these hardcore collectible items, you can't give them away.
It's true. And time flies. You don't realize how retro and vintage is defined as 20 years old. So PS3 is, like 2 years away from being vintage?
How's that feel?
It's crazy. We're already talking about PS6. When you have your packs, right, the new packs, how hard is it for you not to open them and gamble because obviously your job is to sell your cards, right? But to the urge to open up those packs, like how do you handle that?
I limit myself to 2. And that's where, you could still open something and have fun with everybody else, but you're not opening half a box and then you have nothing to sell to anybody. I mean, it's addictive. You buy 2, then you're like, oh, just 2 more. And then you hit. Now it's 2 more. And I always make the joke, I'm like, hey, leave money for groceries, guys. Ramen sucks.
Cup noodles all day.
Cup of noodles all day.
Do you ever grade your cards? Do you ever send them to get graded?
I've graded a few. I've had some Charizards and I've sent out. I've sent out some sports cards to get graded. One thing we've kind of toyed with the idea of is bringing sports cards in. There's nowhere else around here doing that except for Walmart. And I believe the guy cracked one of the Yankee Legacy boxes and pulled a Mickey Mantle out. I think we sent that out to get graded.
And do you think grading cards nowadays, right, in a collector's market, do you think it's worth waiting up to 6 months just to get a grade back? And it's not even guaranteed that you're going to get a PSA 10 for the value that you think it's going to come back with.
Exactly.
Do
Nobody's promising you anything when that thing comes back. You get an 8 and sit there and go, well, that's not fair. Not fair all you want. Beckett gave it an 8. That's what it is. Depends on the card, really. I mean, you got to know what your customers want. If that's what they want, you got to do it, It's about helping them out.
With Warhammer, right? Why would you say that's such a big game in the tabletop industry?
Right now?
Right now.
I think it's always been huge. I think it's one of those games that a lot of people kind of find, and then it's crazy how big it got with just finding the lore, coming in and being like, hey, I played the video game, on the PS3 that, back in the day when Space Marine came out for the 360 and the PS3, and this game was crazy. Is this anything like Warhammer? And I have to say, no, not at all. That's a video game. This is, cutting out a sprue, building, painting, getting it, together, watching it get taken off the table as your friend blows it off. I mean, that's kind of how it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think with the new show coming out, and I'm going to butcher his last name, Henry, is it Cavill? He's going to do amazing things for that. I mean, it's big because I think a lot of people see current video games as, look at the new Star Wars game they just announced.
Right.
Oh, it's $70, but you're only getting a third of the game. Well, 120 gets you a little bit more. 170, there you go. There's the whole game. It's like $170 for a game.
Yeah, with all the expansions and stuff like that. Also, the replayability in these kind of games, you can always change up the story. They have all these minis that come out, and speaking of minis as well, mentioning that, you can see that minis go for a high price, right? Why do you think people feel like it's necessary to pay $20 for a 1-inch figure, like, and expand on that and make like this little army of like a set of characters and stuff like that? Why do you think people want to spend that much money on something like that?
It's just their hobby. I mean, that's the same for anything. I look at what's a game at the end of the day? It's a CD. Why are you paying $200, $300 for a CD? You know what I mean? If that's your hobby, that's what you love, and that's what your passion is, it's just the price you pay, kind of. I mean, look at any other hobby. Look at golf. How much are golf clubs now?
A lot. Like
a lot.
Hundreds.
Yeah. For one golf club, you could spend up to $200-$300 a golf club. He's shaking his head. He knows. That's what it is. But I mean, it's the hobby is just, it is what it is. Games Workshop has to make their money too.
Correct. And the scale of the figures, right? Having a figure that's like 2 feet big, for example, like Warhammer, right? Like they have like these giant pieces, right? Do you think that's like necessary to like have in a game? Like,
are you talking about the giant, like the Titans?
Yeah, like you think those are like excessive, or you think those are like worth it?
If that's your hobby, that's your hobby. Who am I to tell somebody, those things are $2,000 plus, and it's crazy they have to play on the floor. You laugh, but it is. They roll out the mats on the floor and they play on the floor. The guy picks it up like a toddler and has to like walk it down. It's crazy.
What I like about the minis is that a lot of them come in black and white, like just non-painted at all. It also gives people an artistic edge to.
That's 100% what it is.
Create their own. It's their own persona.
a lot of it is gray, not really black and white. They come in sprues of gray.
Right.
And that's yours to do whatever you want with. Nobody's saying you can't paint that Space Marine, red, green, purple, whatever the hell you want to paint it. It's yours.
And you do sell all the necessary paints and plenty of different shades for everyone to make their own custom.
I feel sorry for the mom who has to walk in and she's like, my kid needs a red. Well, here we go. What red? I think there's, on the monument rack alone, I think there's like, I could be wrong, I think there's like 6 or 8 reds on there.
Sheesh. And
welcome to the hobby.
Would you ever consider 3D printing your own minis?
No.
Why would you say no?
Absolutely not. Not even for the fact that like we signed a thing with like certain companies that we said we won't do that. 3D printing is great. 3D printing is wonderful. But 3D printing also comes with a responsibility of, I've had people come in and say, well, what's stopping me from 3D printing my entire army? Well, what's stopping me from bringing McDonald's into a mom and pop restaurant? You know what I mean? It's just kind of, I don't want to say, for me personally, it feels like it's a little disrespectful to walk into a game store and be like, well, why should I buy it off your shelf when I just go home and print it?
That's true.
And it hurts your LGS, it hurts a lot of things. And I mean, if you need it where the figure is out of print and you can't get it anymore, by all means, have at it. You want to go home and hit print, go right ahead. But I think it's this certain kind of taboo walking into a game store with, here's my whole 3D printed army, because it's like, great. Especially since I don't do table fees. That's kind of a big, screw you to me. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's funny because with the tables, it's such a community-based environment. Do you ever play Dungeons and Dragons with your customers? Do you ever play card games when you host tournaments? Do you participate in those as well?
I DM every Wednesday and I DM every Friday. So I am the dungeon master on those 2 days. So I 100% am involved with that. Yeah, absolutely. With Pokemon, I grab my deck and I sit down with them and play. It's important to remember that, the house does not have to win in that retrospect. Let people have their fun too. You know what I mean? That's the most rewarding thing of being a DM, is watching your players sit there and from a group that could barely speak to each other 2 weeks ago are now laughing and joking and they look like high school friends from, you just got back together. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's such a commitment to participate in those games, because you miss 1 week and you're no longer like informed on what's going on in the story. You just missed an episode. You skipped an episode. You can't even miss it. You skipped it.
And it's important to acknowledge that person's losing that episode. Come up with the one shot. Come on, throw the One Piece beach episode in there. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So it's actually really cool that as the game store owner, you do engage in that. You do engage with your customers in playing.
You absolutely have
to. So that's really cool. Yeah, and as well as you're informed on what you sell. That's huge.
That's what it has to be.
A lot of people think it's just about the money. It seems like to you actually want to provide fun and community.
Wouldn't be doing it if that wasn't, you know what I mean? Wouldn't be doing it if that wasn't the case. You're building a community. Everybody's like, you're holding the community together. I'm simply steering the ship. It's up to them to steer it. You know what I mean? I'm at the helm. It's up to them to take care of the community. It's up to the player base. And if your player base isn't willing to help you, then, you know what I mean?
Right.
I guess to word it as like, let me try to think of a way to reword that, where it's like, they're the ones that have to hold their community together, and you're the one that kind of has to wrangle them all together. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, they come here. This is the meetup location.
Yeah.
For them. And would you say that like this place has created a lot of different friendships for those who were strangers before?
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool that I had 2 kids that go to the same school together that wouldn't even talk to each other in the hallways, that met up here, and now they're like best friends.
That's nice. That's pretty cool. You create long-term relationships like that.
Hey, I got a kid off his depression meds. For everybody that says gaming doesn't do good for anything, are you kidding me? I have a kid now, thanks to Warhammer, thanks to, all these other games, he's off his depression meds. I just mom come in and thank me for that.
That's crazy.
That's why I do it.
That's crazy. In a market like this, right?
Mhm.
Would you say, since physical media is dying out, right?
Mhm.
Do you think that board games are eventually going to be all digital to save? No?
No. If anything, I saw from like Adepticon and all these other cons I've seen, board games are going to be here for the next past you and I. I hope our kids love them because that's what they're going to have. It's amazing to see physical media is so alive and well. I mean, like I said before with Dungeons and Dragons, what's it competing against? Virtual reality. It's competing against video games. It's dice, pencils, paper, and your imagination.
And you think video games are going to die out before board games?
100%.
100%.
I think it's one of those things where, even with the shorter attention spans or whatever you see for today's kids, I mean, what's the biggest thing? I'm bored. You walk down GameStop or go to any other game store that sells these things. I mean, you could only walk the aisle so many times. You and I were kids, it was Blockbuster Video.
It was.
Do you want to see this again? No. Do you want to do that? No. Do you want to grab? No.
Right. Once you beat that game, that's it. It stays on the shelf.
How many more times can we really go back and play Skyrim? I mean, you know, you pick it up 5 years later, you pop it in, you run around, you have fun, or Fallout or whatever. With D&D, it's a new story every time. It's a new adventure. It's not just wash repeat of the last one. Board games, it's not just, you know, it's not Catan and just, you know, your daddy's Monopoly anymore. It's a bigger world out there now. You see video games now coming into board games. You see it on my wall. I have Resident Evil and I have Borderlands out there. Like, I can't keep a Dark Souls in stock. Like, it's one of those things where I don't see them competing, more combining. And when you see, you know, people walk in, they're like, I didn't know that Resident Evil had a board game. The first thing you crack it open is the opening scene from Resident Evil 3. For that one, it's this scene contain, you know, this game contains intense violence and gore. You know what I mean? Like when you open up the game,
right?
That's awesome. Like to see them kind of evolve into that. You could paint Jill. You can have her, you know, keep her in her little gray form, or you can paint her, you know, whatever you want to do. That's, you know, that's great that you get to sit there. Even when Resident Evil 2 came out, the board game, it's Leon, Claire, and Ada you're painting.
And the board games stay true to what their video games are defined by. So, like, for example, Dark Souls, right? What was it? When you open the box, what's the first thing that you see when you open the box?
You've died.
You died. And
you have died or whatever, yeah.
Arguably, Dark Souls, the board game, is just as challenging as it is in its own, like, video game.
I watched the kids pick it up and play, and they put it on the table. And they're like, look, you have died, ha ha ha. And I said, yeah, there's a premonition for you. And like, this game's hard. I said, yeah, welcome to Dark Souls.
Right, it ain't gonna get easier whether you play it.
They're not holding your hand.
That's pretty cool that companies are expanding, because also think about it as well, when you buy a video game, you have to buy that console. You may have to pay for a membership for online services. You got a board game, it's all there, and it could cost up to probably like $100 max and lower, and you can enjoy basically the same game, just in a different form.
Well, you got to be careful now with digital games now. You got to read that fine print where they said they could take it away anytime they want. You're renting that. You're leasing that game. They're not selling that to you. You're paying for the lease. Like, how long ago was it that I forget what it was. Maybe it was Assassin's Creed where they took away all the DLC content. People were like, well, I was still playing that. They're like, we could do that anytime we want. You didn't read the fine print. Nobody's going to walk over and take your board game from you and be like, well, now you can't play this anymore.
Exactly, and if there's a power outage, no Wi-Fi, your console's gone, that's it. You have no form of entertainment. At least your board game you can take anywhere you want with you.
I'll find you the picture of we lost power. The kids took water bottles, their cell phones, made lanterns, and kept playing Magic and board games out here. You don't need electricity. What do you need it for?
Wow.
Yeah. The kid playing is like, you know, Xbox is there losing his mind and can't figure out what to do. The Magic kids just turned their water bottles into lanterns and sat there, and it's like, okay, I draw for 3, and it's still, the game's still on.
That's crazy. Wow. And it kind of leaves that, like, I wouldn't even call it desperation. It's like, I'm going to figure out a way to play my game.
Yeah.
Because I have it in front of me. I'm going to enjoy myself with it. Out of all the card games, what would you say is the most trending at the moment?
That's tough. I mean, Magic's always going to be big. Pokemon's always going to be big. The new kids on the block, Star Wars Unlimited and Disney Lorcana right now, I mean, they just came out. They're climbing ranks. I got to give Grand Archive credit too. That game's climbing up. It's getting increasingly hard to find product for it. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, Disney got into the trading card game before. I want to say years ago was some kind of thing they had. Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars is on everything. But, that's incredible to see these games just kind of keep pace with the big guys.
Yeah, and these games can be out for only 2 years compared to these games have been out for over 20, like Yu-Gi-Oh, for example, right?
Yeah.
Well, Yu-Gi-Oh, would you say is like dying out just a little bit because they keep reprinting the same cards?
I don't think it's dying out so much as I think people get bored and want to find something new, and then their whole thing is like for a lot of kids in this area, my area here, we don't really have a Yu-Gi-Oh market. That's not us.
I noticed you don't sell Yu-Gi-Oh cards here.
I do not have Yu-Gi-Oh cards. We don't have Yu-Gi-Oh players. This is not our game here.
Like you said, you give people what they need, not what they want.
What's the purpose of having $1,500 of Yu-Gi-Oh on the wall if I don't have any players for it?
Right, as an owner, that's completely understandable. Pokemon's number one. That's king. And then I see that you have some universes as well. I heard
Universes
that's a
is
game.
amazing. Universes is a game that's coming up that it was owned by, I want to say, Jasco, and they got bought, and now this is climbing the ranks in our store. It's doing incredible. Like, we're one of the only stores in this surrounding area that sells it. Universes is absolutely fantastic. What's the first thing you came and you did? You picked up the Cowboy Bebop and you picked up the Trigun decks.
Yeah, well, it's cool to see that the game has so many different collaborations in it.
We call it Saturday Night Adult Swim, because when was Adult Swim? Yeah, for Adult Swim. You remember? He's laughing. He remembers. And we had Yu Yu Hakusho, Trigun, Cowboy Bebop. That's the 3 decks we allow.
It's pretty sick.
What was Adult Swim?
Just a bunch of collaboration of different shows.
My Hero Academia blew up with it. They have Godzilla coming out for it. They have Tekken 8 coming out for it. They have, oh gosh, what do they have coming out for
Sailor
it?
Moon.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I can see it. I can see that's my premonition. See Sailor Moon take off, and that will absolutely be a game changer.
It's cool because
Attack on Titan's the next big anime that's coming out for it. I mean, how big was Attack on Titan?
Huge. It's still huge.
It's still
Even
huge.
The show is done and it's still huge.
People went back and rewatched it, and the mangas are huge. I still see kids walking in with the Scout hoodies on. You know what I mean?
Guilty.
Yeah.
I watched that show 3 times. I mean, it's perfect.
And now now they're gonna have it in that card game.
Capitalize on that.
They're gonna kill it.
As a business owner, you capitalize on that.
They're gonna murder it. They're gonna absolutely,
And do you see other? So, for example, right, other video game industry stores, right, in the big market. Let's just say, for example, GameStop, Blockbuster closed down, obviously, but with stores like that dying out, do you see stores like yours opening up more and more around?
I think it's one of those things where be prepared for what exactly you're getting yourself into. I've seen a ton of kids when, up and recently in my area, there was where I used to live, there's a retro game store that's opening up. And I went to talk to the kid, and I said, good luck. It's going to be rough, but, if you're willing to put up with it and you're willing to deal with it, I think it's one of those things where it's coming down to big corporate stores like Amazon, Walmart, or it's mom and pop, and the middle ground guys are kind of just dying off. I mean, especially with game stores, and I'm not mentioning names, that's, have a reputation. So-and-so be like, I give you 15 cents for these stacks of 360 games you bring in.
Right. As an owner, you want to be fair, and you want them to come back when they do want to eventually trade instead of feeling ripped off.
I mean, you bought from me. Did you feel ripped off?
Never.
Yeah.
Never. So, COVID. Let's get into COVID.
Let's not. Oh, that was not fun.
With the shutdown, how did you handle that? Especially in this... Honesdale is a pretty small town, right? In the middle of nowhere. How did you even handle something like that?
Well, when our governor said, unless you're an essential store, you can't stay open. Our last day, our customers came in and pretty much cleared us out of almost everything. They basically picked the scraps. And I said, guys, it's only going to be 2 weeks. Don't panic. We'll be back. We'll figure this out. Well, like everybody else, 2 weeks turned into 3 weeks, turned into a month, turned into, what was it, 6 months, or was it like 6 or 8 months we were out?
Yeah.
I came back, and the best thing I could do is I have my mask on. I clean in here constantly. I still clean in here. Since day one, since since June 11th, 2018, and everything else. Lysol every table down, scrub the bathroom, scrub the floors, everything you can with that. What's crazy and fun with this is, it'd be hysterical right now if you just left the lens cap on, or if you were muted the entire time, was I call it looked like a zombie infestation, that I had the lights kicked on and I'm mopping. I turn around, there's 5 kids staring at the glass, all pressed up against the glass, leaning in with the masks on, just waiting. And I was like, I turn around again, I was like, uh-oh, now there's 8, now there's 12. And I was like, you better be keeping your 5-foot distance. And they kind of jokingly, I was like, 5 foot, you got to spread out, just kind of as a joke. And they did. And they all like kind of uniformly spread out. And I was like, uh-oh.
And you weren't even open. They were just...
I wasn't even open. I was mopping the floor. And so the day we went to Yellow, I opened the front door, and it was nuts to see the community was like, because it could have went either way. They could have either been like, yes, the game store's open, or hey, we're done, we're playing online now. Because remember, it was all, hey, we Skype online, with this, with D&D, or we Skype online to play Magic, and they were like, okay, get the plexiglass up, we gotta play. Or I need new things. I had a guy come in, it was funny, he was an EMT worker, and he comes in and he's like full Rizalion and everything, masks, gloves on. And he's like, if I have to play Catan one more time, I'm going to scream, what else do you have? He ended up buying like 4 other board games. And I'm like, that was awesome to see that. My landlord, tremendous help with that too.
Yeah, being closed for that long and not actively selling, it's scary.
It is. It's terrifying.
It's very scary. Would you say that when your stores opened back up, did you get more customers than before closing because everyone was so tempted to do physical shopping again instead of online?
Yeah, I'd say that. But it was also a productive of getting product in. Because remember, we went to quarantine rules, and, there wasn't that many people working. So instead of taking 2 days to get in, it was taking a week.
Yeah, the supply chain was really awful.
The supply chain was awful, is right.
Scary.
You didn't know if you're going to make it or not. And I mean, we were fortunate enough to have a landlord who took pity and understood our situation.
Right. And it's good to have relationships like that, because
you have to.
They understand. It's really human of people to be like, what would I do in that situation?
You're a small business that does so much for a town. Trying to make sure that kids aren't doing stupid crap out there. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's nuts.
And you are an entertainment store, so what would people do without a form of entertainment? And not just selling entertainment, but this is a location where people just get together and have fun together.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, it'd be very obvious that people wouldn't invite another random stranger to their house, but everyone's like, hey, let's go to Mike's store and let's just, at this time, let's have fun, sit down.
Well, that's a big part of it too, is like, okay, it's great that, you could bring your friends over, you know what I mean, like that, or, if you're D&D group. I mean, I have one D&D group that's got two, like, let's say they're like 17, 18 in a group playing with like 30-year-olds. You're going to bring a 17-year-old kid over your house. That's weird, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Where the game store allows that, those play groups to get together. Careful what you have before you lose it. That's always what I said to them. I said, it's one of those things where in a store, right now in the economy being as hard as it is, I know personally two game stores that are calling it. And I said, guys, appreciate what you got, because there's going to be a couple towns right now in bigger cities too that are not going to have that one anymore.
And and like game stores closing down, at least you still offer retro video games when they do come in for trade. So at least you have a little bit of everything for everyone.
I'm selling out faster than I could get it in.
Yeah, I mean your whole game rack is empty. Last time I was here a few weeks ago, like you had a decent amount of games, so it's really nice to see that you.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's picked clean. What does that tell you?
No, it's great. People are looking, and you got what they want.
Yeah.
Or got what they need, per se.
Exactly.
Would you recommend anyone to open a tabletop store?
Jokingly, no. I mean, that's your call. I mean, be prepared for what it is. I mean, I said jokingly, take your business plan that you wrote out and you gave to the bank, and you went down and you tried to do your whole thing. Throw it out. Nothing's going to go according to plan. Nothing prepares you for because you don't know what's coming. You can open it up and nobody could walk in. You can walk it up and have 50 people for, Friday Night Magic. You don't know what's coming. And that's the tough part. Do I recommend it? If you're willing to put up with the long nights, the impossible odds, and that, then yeah. Everybody says, well, I could have did it. I was ready to. I could have opened a game store. It wouldn't be hard at all. You have no idea what you're walking into. I made the joke. I said it's Vietnam when you see the new guys get off the plane, they touch down. It's like, oh, I'm ready, and the veterans are walking past. I'm like, you have no idea what you're ready for. And you're combining people from every walk of life into a building, and you're going to have people that just don't get along with each other, or I don't come down on Wednesdays because this person's here, or I don't come down on Mondays because this person's here, and this group doesn't like that group. And that's what the one game store kind of, I feel terrible for. His one clique got into a fight with his other clique in the store, and they both said, fine, we're not coming anymore, and now neither one of them has a place to play anymore.
And the store is your baby. This is you. This store is Mike.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, how many days a week are you here? And you are here from open to close.
6.
Insane. 6 days a week from open to close.
Mm-hmm.
You dedicate your whole life into this one building.
What's the point of doing it if you're not going to do that?
And how many trial and error of product, and you had to move your tables around. You had to you had to buy these glass cases. People don't understand that there's so much more than just selling a product.
I'm still doing that. You're still touching base with, just because Star Wars is slapped on it doesn't mean it's going to sell. Just because it's the new Magic set doesn't mean everybody wants it. Just because it's the new Pokemon set that's coming out. I've had it where I've gotten the new Pokemon sets in and people are like, all right, you ready? And they're like, no. And you're kind of like, what do you mean no? That's the scary part. I bought, you buy $1,000 plus worth of this stuff and you're sitting there going, what do you mean no? And that's kind of like, I'm not feeling it. So you kind of have to get it where it's, come on, it's a new set, you want it, crack a few packs, see how you feel. And I mean, it sells, but it's just, it's that scary moment where even you get the new Magic cards in and your people like, I don't want that set. And you're like, what do you mean you don't want it? There's you said, again, with Pokemon, there's 1,500 in the closet. What do you mean there isn't?
Exactly. It's scary when the new set comes out and you order it because you're anticipating a mass amount of people ready for the next trend. But then you realize maybe the older stuff is better than newer stuff. I mean, that goes for everything.
That's anything. The newer games are, the older games, people there swear up and down that said the old games are better than the new stuff. And I kind of believe that. Hey, at least when you bought a game on the PS2, you got the whole game.
Exactly.
You didn't have to pay $70 and then another $30 and then another $40, or hey, I want this, another $20. You know what I mean?
And do you plan on expanding, or I think you told me before that you're still upgrading the store. And how long have you been open for?
We're going on 6 years now.
6 years. And after 6 years, you're still trying to make the store better. And by the way, beautiful store. It's super clean, cleanest store I've seen. My journeys. Lighting is amazing. Your shelves look beautiful. Cards are clean.
It's one of those things where you always have to. A store is a shark. A shark has to swim or else it dies. You can't stay still and say this is good enough, or you will be closing in 3 months. That's kind of where you have to always be. It's always when's this coming in? When is that coming in? Oh, an order got delayed. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that UPS has had a truck breakdown and they had to load everything into a new truck and they had to drive out there and you're not going to see it till Wednesday. That's its own challenge in its own, and that has nothing to even do with you. That's UPS. How are you, and that's just well, what do you mean? I thought you said it's going to be here.
Right, dependency.
Yeah.
On another product or company.
Games Workshop did away with next day delivery. When you sign up to that, people were furious with that, where it's like, I need it now. I want it now. And it's like, well, you're going to have to wait. It's, after COVID, there was supply chain issues with everybody.
Right. Imagine pre-ordering a game and it didn't even come in yet.
Well, I mean, they did their best, and I really shout out to them. They did a wonderful job getting it to those as fast as they could. You know what I mean? there's things out of your control that you cannot help, but people don't want to hear that. They want to hear, where's my stuff?
Right, exactly. They don't. Some people just don't want to hear the story because they wouldn't know what it's like to be under that pressure. There's a lot of pressure behind it as well, because obviously you don't want to upset anyone.
Oh, you get that wonderful UPS email that says, sorry, your order's been delayed another day or two.
And hopefully your customers, the loyal ones, especially the ones that come back, are really understanding of that situation.
I think they have to be anymore, even after COVID, realize that there's just things out of your control. I mean, there's a thing where it's like, I feel like the week after Magic, I still feel like they didn't print enough. And they're like, it's coming. And they're like, yeah, so it's Christmas. Like, when's it coming in?
Sheesh. It's months.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. That's what you got to brace for.
So being in Honesdale, right, a small town, do you ever plan on expanding to a second store, or would you relocate to a bigger town to attract more people? How would you handle that? Like,
I mean, that's a hard question, because it's one of those things where a lot of if we moved, where you're going to go to another town where there's another game store and try to compete, or are you going to go here? And it works here when it, where we move to a bigger location. Well, we've been here for 5 years. People are going to, be a little, like, what happened to the game store? Oh, I guess it left. I guess it folded. Reading, the sign on the door that says we're 2 blocks down. That's when you have to really crank out advertisement and get that out. I mean, I think about it every day. I'm going to be honest with you. The other game store isn't doing so well, or it's leaving. Like, oh, we can move there. Or there's a reason why they're leaving. Why are they leaving? You know what I mean? Is it the owner? Is it just lack of interest in that area? Is it just, there's 1,000 ifs you got to dig into with that. Would I love to expand? Absolutely. If the price is right. You know what I mean? I've seen game stores that got, they expanded to a bigger location and had to close 6 months later because they blew their budget into that. You know what I mean?
Correct. It's utilities are number one factor when it comes to opening a store. And that leads me to my next question, right? Yes, your store has utilities, employees, right? Because you got to take a day off.
I don't really have employees.
Well, geez. Yeah, you are the one man army, huh?
I have a lot of help from the community.
Okay.
It's one of those things where it's tough when it's, like I said, like a game store is a tough business.
It is.
Not everybody's into Magic or Dungeons and Dragons or Warhammer or Pokemon or whatever. A lot of times I said, even with certain towns where they said, why didn't it work in this town? Kids don't want to play Magic. They want to go home and play Xbox. Like, that's what kids want to do. You're constantly fighting video games. You're constantly fighting the next trend. You're constantly fighting kids just staring into their phones, not wanting to do anything even, you know what I mean? There's days where it's great to have 12 kids and that they're all staring at their cell phones. You know what I mean? How do you break that?
It's true.
Tech addiction is a thing, and it's just kids just sitting there just...
If not, a 3-second attention span. TikTok, was it TikTok rot?
TikTok rot. You got 3-second attention spans.
It's nuts.
It is. That's where we're at.
And, it's like kind of makes you wonder, like, the future. Not everyone, because everyone's different, but like the future of like reading manuals, strategy guides. Do you think that'll be an issue for short attention span people?
Of course it is. It's a problem now, you see. Where, they're staring at, attentions, the crack open a board game and sitting there, they're like, okay, I didn't learn anything. I'm like, yeah, you actually have to read it more than just look at picture, do picture.
Right, you have to learn how to play the game. Right?
Yeah.
You have to read the rules. So I get that. And that's the challenge coming into modern society.
Yeah.
Or it's already here, actually.
It's here.
Let's see. Ever since you opened the store, what's your favorite, most wholesome story of a interaction with the customer, if you can remember off the top of your head? Your favorite moment? I think it
was literally coming off of one of the worst weeks ever, and just sales were like any other business. Sales were just down, and they're already giving you and every game store goes through this, like, this group doesn't want to play with this group. Why don't you, throw this person out or do this or do that? And then you're sick of it. And it's one person can only take so much. And you're sitting there and the kid's mom walks in, when my younger player comes in and goes, I just want you to know, he just came off of his antidepressants because of your store, and that's what you did for him. And I said, you know what? Despite everything, despite everybody crying and complaining that I don't have cars on the counter or whatever, it's, you know, you made somebody's life better. He's not having to swallow a handful of pills and, you know, go see, you know, this anymore because he's, you know, depressed about this or, you know, life being hard. And I mean, like, it's, you remember 16 sucks.
It does.
And the fact that he's like, because of, you know, Warhammer and because of painting minis and because of this, he's off his depression. And for me, that was like huge. And my wife slapped me in the arm and she goes, that's why you do it.
Right. It's not about the money. It's about the impact on the community.
You don't open this for the money.
No.
No.
Because it's passion. It's what you like to do. And being open for 6 years, you're obviously doing the right thing.
Trying.
The business, I can assume, is going really well. Obviously.
I'm still here.
Doors are open. People still walk in.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is the next goal? Because you already own what you own. You have what you have, but the sky's the limit. What is your next plan? What's the next big step? Being where you currently are, what would you say?
That's hard.
It is hard, but not a lot of people know that.
You know, I don't like to show my hands sometimes, I guess you could say. I would love to touch more on, like, even just getting a bigger store and touching into, like, more video game, like, apparel and stuff like that, where I went to one game store. They had this retro section, but they had a bunch of, like, Final Fantasy and Fallout stuff, and I thought that was awesome, and I'd love to do that. I'd like to get into collectibles. And I know that's a very dangerous... You know it's going to sit for time and eternity, and you know it's going to be a while before somebody picks that up, but I mean, like, I really do think in certain areas it can work. And collectibles is a big passion of mine too, for, you know, the video game statues, you know what I mean? The play arts are gorgeous. They're top of the line. They're, you know, they're $110 a pop, but I mean, they are top tier.
Right.
The new ones they just did are Sephiroth and, you know, Cloud, and that is the most absolute beautiful statue in the world. Go look it up sometime.
And those things go for like 400.
Oh yeah, plus.
Yeah, because the amount of detail is incredible, and they're so limited as well.
It's not like getting an old box of Magic cards or getting something like that, or getting a new box of baseball cards. You know it's going to sell. This thing is one of those things you have to go in with a scalpel, not a broadsword, and you have to get, you know, what's hot, what's trending, what's big right now. Obviously, is it Rebirth right now, Final Fantasy?
Yeah.
Fallout, with the TV series being huge. I mean, I feel like anything Fallout's fire right now.
It's a hot trend.
It's huge. It's going to be huge for a while.
It's a hot trend. And those that were trending before, like, you have 2 Gears of War guns on the wall, replicas.
Yeah.
I'm sure those are insanely hard to find. Like, you have the Lancer and the...
Well, you're into the retro game market. Have you seen them before?
No, not like that. I've seen bootlegs, you know, like small plastic jammies, but you
Not
have
bad.
straight from that's straight from the manufacturer, right? Like Gears of War. How did you even get those?
I have my ways.
You have your ways. Top secret.
Top secret.
Got it.
I went to the pre-release and I bought them.
That's pretty sick. And as an owner, right, to like advertise, well, not like you said, you don't pay for advertisements, but you do pop up to like these conventions, right? Like, do you do pop-ups as well?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we've done, was it the Northeast PA Comic-Con? We did that one. I've done BetaCon. I've done a bunch of like local ones. It's just throwing the tables up, getting everybody introduced to show that there's more than just the same 3 things out there. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
As far as game stores go in the area, I'm actually the newest.
Really? 6 years?
Even at 6 years, I am the new kid on the block. There's game stores that have been open for 30 plus years in the Northeast PA area.
And would you say that competition is an issue, or?
I think it's something you definitely have to take in consideration for. I think it's one of those things where if they're just doing the same 6 games for the last 30 years, you kind of have to be like, well, let's introduce something new. That's where we started doing universes. That's where we started doing, you know, other card games out there where it wasn't, or, you know, Grand Archive, you know, those other games. They were like, you kind of have to try something new that they're not doing. We did start. I feel like we were the first ones to jump on. I could be wrong in this area. We were the first ones to do Star Wars Legion, the tabletop game. You know, everybody else was doing the same 6 games, the same 6 things, the same 6 ways. Well, let's try to grab people that are not, you know, who are tired of the same 6 games. I mean, Skyrim's great. How many more times can you really go back and play that? You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I like also keeping up with the newer games coming out. These board games have their Kickstarters. And
Absolutely.
Do you participate in any Kickstarters?
I've kickstarted a few games.
Yeah. And I see that, like, it's not like you said you have like board games related to video games, which is a huge advantage because I see that you have Borderlands, the movie's coming out soon.
Yeah.
Great promotion coming out, which works in your favor. Resident Evil, insanely, like, who doesn't know Resident Evil, right? But you have the board game for it. I think that also differentiates you from other stores, especially knowing that you're a video game collector like me, right? You like video games. You worked in the industry for so long. For those who wouldn't know and they just care about the card scene, the TCG, you got that upper hand for a different market, a whole different market to walk in, a whole different customer base. Like, I'm not a collector of cards per se. That's not my niche, but you do have retro video games, and that's how we met. So the fact that you do have a little bit of everything attracts...
You can always get into it if you want to.
So many different people. So...
let's get you in the TCG. You have fun with it.
I'm open to it.
All right.
I'm open to it.
Well, we'll get you a demo, get you started. What's your favorite game?
Video game?
Yeah.
Super Mario Sunshine.
Good one.
100%. That game is a classic. I don't think there's like... I could replay that game so much. And it's just... You can go into different worlds, any world you want, in different patterns. It's not just a one-way street. That game was fun. What's your best advice for someone who wants to open a store like this? Or just get into this whole gaming scene in general as a job, their lifestyle? It's
kind of weird that you should say that. I actually had 2 or 3 kids actually a couple weeks ago ask me the same question. My joke to them was don't. But be prepared. Be prepared for knowing what you're giving up. Be prepared for knowing that it is the long nights. It's going to be days where there's nobody that walks in. There's going to be days where you're swamped and you're finding seats. There's going to be nights where there's, $1,000 in the register and it's going great. There's nights where there's $12 and you're asking yourself, why am I doing this? Everybody else can do it better than you. That's always something you're always going to have, is the guy sitting next to a crossed arm, pissed off at the door, saying, I could do this better than him. I got this. I could smoke him out of the water. By all means, go do it. If you think it's that easy, you know what I mean? If you think it's that easy, but be prepared. Some people are very finical about how their game should be doing or how this should be going. It's this. Oh, I want to set up my store that way. It's, or this. It's, everybody's got an opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. Do your best. Have fun. What's the point of doing all this if you're just going to be stressed out every day, kicking rocks and being angry?
Right. You wouldn't be here if you didn't want to be here.
100%.
And the final question.
Yes, this chair sucks.
Having a physical store, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't you decide to just do online, right? Because you're paying an overhead. You're spending so much time here. Why do you think it's better to have a physical store rather than sell online?
Because this town needed it. And I think that was a big deciding factor. I mean, like, there's 1,000 online stores, and there is. Everybody's got one now, and, it's some guy in his basement selling them, or it's, it's whoever. You're going up against Bezos, you're going up against, eBay, all that stuff. Online's not all it's cracked up to be either. It's tough to go up against Amazon, it's tough to go up against eBay, it's tough to go up against those companies.
And someone seeing a physical product, as well as you could just sit down and play the product as soon as you buy it. It's a different experience.
Some of my online competitors got in a lot of trouble with selling open product that some guy resealed. There was boxes of Pokemon cards that people were pulling all the rare out of, resealing the boxes and returning it because, hey, no questions asked return policy is great. With those people, they took advantage of the situation. My boxes aren't tampered. you got just the right to pull as anything else as anybody else does. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's good that you're an honest salesman, an honest owner. You do good for the community.
Try.
Bring everyone together. Your store isn't cluttered with things that aren't looked for and unwanted. You purchase the right amount of stuff for the right amount of people.
I try. Having a little more never hurt anyone.
But yeah, Mike, so thanks for having this
No,
interview.
dude, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Hopefully everyone who watched learned something about the tabletop card market. If you guys want to open up your own store, take his advice. He's been doing this for more than half a decade. Well, at least owning his own store for half a decade, but he's been in the market for a long time. So, Mike, like I said, again,
pleasure,
appreciate
man.
you for having
Anytime.
us. All right, so we can't leave a card shop without opening a pack of cards. So
It's the new stuff. Come check it out.
let's see.
It's a pretties.
Feeling lucky today?
No. I'm the last person you should have open these packs.
I do well when you give one to me.
I'm gonna have Rob do the next one.
I suck at this.
You got it?
Nope.
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 I love the honesty.
Damn. I'm struggling.
You're gonna pop it like this and peel back.
That's what I did. Oh wait.
Look at that.
There you go.
There you go.
You can just cut it.
No.
It's fine. No, he wants to watch you struggle.
All right. So you already know. I'm gonna take the top two off.
Yeah, you
So-
can.
We're playing Texas Hold'em.
1, 2.
I got a Haunter.
Let's see.
I got Pikachu. He's a Clyde. Oh, I got a.
Okay.
Those actually do really good in my deck. Pikachu. He's a crowd favorite. Scream 2.
Okay.
Angry Cat.
Am I feeling lucky? Am I feeling lucky? Wiglet. Oh.
Oh, look at you. There you
yeah,
go.
See? Damn.
You actually did pull a really good card.
See that?
See that?
See
I
that?
told you don't let me pull it.
I was so tempted to switch cards with you since you opened your pack already. Glad I did it.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well done.
And for
Good
those,
pulls.
yeah, you guys want the codes? There you go. So Mike, for those who want to visit your store, who are in Pennsylvania, where can they find you?
I am on Main Street in Honesdale.
Main Street, Holmesdale,
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania. Dragons Den
Gaming and hobbies.
Gaming and Hobbies. There
There
you
we
go.
go.
So Mike, thanks for having
Pleasure,
us.
dude.
bro.
A pleasure, dude. Thanks for stopping down. Thank you for coming.
And you already know, guys, stop by, support your local businesses. You know the motto of the channel. And subscribe, like, comment, and I'll catch you all later. Plug it in the Social with Doshi.
Ow!